So, imagine cutting open a cardboard shipping box, right? And you're expecting to find just a single lightweight metal door key.
It's just a tiny envelope kind of thing,
Exactly. But instead you find it buried under like 2 heavy kilograms of iodized table salt. Salt that, you absolutely did not order.
which just seems like a bizarre, almost surreal prank, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
But it actually represents this completely absurd logistical workaround. I mean, the key itself was simply too light to meet a commercial courier's minimum weight requirement for shipping.
So they needed physical weight.
Right, to get the package out the door, the fulfillment center just tossed in a few bags of salt as, disposable ballast.
That is wild. But that
Yeah.
box is essentially like a time capsule of a massive historical migration of value.
It really is.
And today in this deep dive, we're exploring exactly that. What happens when human intelligence becomes completely abundant? We're looking at what it means for your career and really your future when the very cognitive skills society used to value mostly suddenly become the equivalent of, well, cheap packaging filler.
Yeah, and to grasp the gravity of that shift, we first have to look at the mechanics of value itself. Because value is not dictated simply by how useful a resource is, right?
Wait, there's more to the equation.
Exactly. It's forged at the exact intersection of high utility and extreme scarcity. And for the vast majority of human civilization, salt was like the ultimate embodiment of that intersection.
Because we needed it to live.
Exactly. Before the invention of mechanical refrigeration, it was the primary chemical mechanism to preserve protein through, multi-year droughts and freezing winters.
Wow.
Without it, large-scale agriculture, standing armies, permanent urban centers, they simply could not function.
And the historical footprint of that scarcity is just massive. I mean, Roman soldiers were paid allowances specifically to buy it, right? Which is actually where we get the root of the word salary.
Oh yeah, the salt money.
Right. And the French monarchy financed its empire through the gabelle, which was this oppressive salt tax. It was so heavy it became a primary catalyst for the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Or like in 1930, Gandhi marched to the sea specifically to make salt in defiance of British colonial taxation. So entire empires were built on the control of this one chemical compound.
And nowhere was that dynamic more visible than in the ancient trans-Saharan trade routes. I mean, massive camel caravans would cross some of the most hostile terrain on Earth.
Just carrying salt.
Yeah, connecting the salt mines of Tagaza to trading hubs like Timbuktu and Siholmasa in Morocco. Down in the Sahel, gold was actually relatively abundant.
Oh, wow.
But salt was a matter of survival, so it was deeply scarce. Because of that brutal imbalance, traders routinely exchanged salt nearly weight for weight with gold.
That is incredible. Which, makes that modern shipping box such a perfect thought experiment.
It really does.
If you took those 2 heavy bags of table salt and that tiny metal door key and handed them to a 14th century merchant in Siomasa,
They would think you were handing them a king's ransom.
exactly. They would treat the salt as the treasure and look at the metal key as this useless novelty. But today, the dynamic has entirely flipped. The key is the treasure.
Not because of the microscopic amount of metal it contains, obviously.
Right, but because of the abstract property rights and the access it represents.
And that right there is the mechanical inversion of value density. I mean, the utility of salt never disappeared, right? We still fundamentally require it to survive.
Sure.
But the scarcity was eradicated. Industrial chemistry basically engineered ways to extract and process salt at such a massive automated scale that its economic premium just collapsed to zero.
You went from white gold to disposable shipping ballast.
Exactly. And meanwhile, value migrated upward into abstraction like software, intellectual property, brand ecosystems.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though, because it's easy to see how industrial chemistry ruined the value of salt.
Right.
But, air is essential and free, while diamonds are useless and expensive. Are you saying the exact same economic gravity is about to hit white-collar knowledge workers?
I am. That process is already fundamentally underway. We are basically watching the industrialization of cognition.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
So just as steam engines and chemical plants multiplied physical labor and destroyed the value premium of raw muscle, large language models are multiplying intellectual labor.
Wow.
Cognitive value generally breaks down into 5 distinct stages. Stage 1 is information just possessing raw facts. Stage 2 is knowledge understanding the historical relationships between those facts.
Okay, facts and relationships.
Right. And stage 3 is intelligence, applying that knowledge to synthesize a solution or solve a bounded problem.
And artificial intelligence is aggressively conquering those first three stages right now.
Aggressively. Think of a junior law associate or like a financial data analyst.
Right.
They routinely work 80-hour weeks, manually reading case law, pattern matching across thousands of documents, and synthesizing a comprehensive brief.
That's classic stage 3 intelligence work.
Exactly. And we need to understand how the machine actually automates that. An AI model doesn't think in the human sense.
Right. It's not conscious.
No, it functions more like a multi-dimensional map maker. It maps every word, concept, and piece of human data into this massive mathematical topography called a latent space.
Okay.
So when that junior associate is spending 80 hours reading and synthesizing, they are manually walking through that topography.
Oh, I see.
The AI simply looks at the map and calculates the most probable mathematical paths through those concepts in like a 4-second compute cycle. By probabilistically predicting the next token, it replicates the output of human reasoning without any of the friction of human cognition.
And the projections suggest this entirely commoditizes standard information and synthesis work between 2025 and 2040.
Yeah, that timeline is approaching fast.
So the technical expertise that built the modern white-collar middle class just becomes an ambient expected utility.
It becomes the new salt. The cognitive heavy lifting is just outsourced to the algorithm.
Okay, let me push back on this a little, though, because it's very easy to fall into the trap of viewing AI as this frictionless magic floating in the cloud, right?
Sure.
But the physical reality of training and deploying these models runs headfirst into massive thermodynamic limits.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about data centers that require gigawatts of power.
Mhm.
We're talking about grid infrastructure where securing a transmission permit can take a decade in the real world.
Yeah.
Plus the geopolitical reality of mining copper for transformers and the millions of gallons of fresh water required just to keep the servers from melting.
It's extremely resource intensive.
Right. So AI generation might be instant, but physical execution is incredibly slow. Doesn't the sheer friction of the physical world protect human expertise from becoming obsolete?
That's a great point. That physical bottleneck is very real, but, and this is the key, it doesn't protect the generation of the strategy. It only protects the execution.
Interesting.
The algorithm will instantly generate a mathematically perfect blueprint for a highly efficient copper supply chain or a radically optimized data center cooling system.
Right. The plan itself is free.
Exactly.
Hmm.
The stage 3 intelligence, figuring out what to build and how to build it, that's still infinitely abundant and cheap.
So what's left?
What remains fiercely scarce is the human capital required to navigate the physical, political, and social friction of the real world to actually get that system built.
Okay, so if the algorithm can tell you exactly what to do, but it can't navigate the messy reality of actually doing it, the premium value has to migrate.
Yes.
It migrates to the stages of cognition that deal directly with human friction.
Exactly. It migrates to stage 4, which is wisdom. That's the ability to choose which problems actually matter in the first place.
Okay.
And stage 5, which is vision, the capacity to perceive and build what does not yet exist.
But wait, why are wisdom and vision so deeply resistant to computation? I mean, if an AI has read every philosophy book, every business case study, and every historical archive ever written, why can't it just generate vision?
Because vision requires skin in the game. These probabilistic models have absolutely no liability. They possess no personal conviction, they cannot be fired, they cannot go bankrupt, and they cannot absorb social ridicule.
Right, it doesn't care.
A machine can outline 1,000 different brilliant corporate strategies, but it fundamentally cannot care which future comes to pass.
Yeah, if a machine generates 1,000 perfect medical diagnoses or legal strategies for a client, it hasn't actually solved the human problem.
Not at all.
It has just created a massive new burden of choice.
Yeah.
Someone still has to look a terrified patient or an anxious board of directors in the eye and say, this is the specific path we are taking, and if it fails, I take the fall.
Exactly.
Vision without the willingness to absorb risk is really just a hallucination?
And the assumption of risk is a uniquely biological human trait. There's actually a powerful historical framework for understanding this dynamic, the story of Noah's Ark.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, whether you view it as historical record or cultural mythology, the economic mechanism inside the story is identical. In that era, the technical knowledge of carpentry was a common commodity.
Right.
Thousands of people knew how to fell timber, shape wood, and seal a hull.
So they had the technical execution skills. They were the stage 3 intelligence workers of the
Yeah,
ancient world.
exactly. But Noah's extraordinary act of value creation had absolutely nothing to do with the physical construction of the boat.
Oh, right.
His value was building a massive ship in the middle of a dry desert long before the evidence of rain was obvious.
Wow.
He perceived a weak signal about the future that was entirely invisible to the consensus. And more importantly, he assumed the profound social ridicule and the massive financial and labor risk of acting absurdly in the present to survive the future.
The technical skill to build a boat was abundant, but the vision to build it when and where he did that was singular.
Precisely.
And that maps perfectly to the modern digital economy. The algorithm can give you the perfect schematic for the boat. It can even write the project management schedule for you.
Yep.
But the machine cannot convince your skeptical community that the flood is coming. It can't marshal the human capital or maintain the morale of a team working under extreme constraints or, bear the humiliation if it never actually rains.
And every major societal transformation follows this sequence. The visionary sees the pattern and absorbs the initial risk. Early adopters believe it and finance it.
And then what?
Well, only years later does the broader society understand and formalize it. By the time the execution becomes a standardized algorithmic procedure, the massive premium value has already been captured by the visionary who crossed the desert.
Wow. Okay, so if stage 3 intelligence is fully automated, what does society actually look like when cognitive labor is as cheap and ambient as the electricity powering your home?
Projections for the 2060 to 2080 timeline suggest we will enter what's called a zero-trust economy.
Zero trust.
Yes. We are rapidly approaching a world where the supply of synthetic reality is virtually infinite. Any voice can be perfectly cloned. Any high-definition video can be generated from a text prompt.
That's terrifying, honestly.
It is.
Yep.
Any flawless, highly persuasive legal or political document can be hallucinated instantly by a machine that carries zero liability for its contents.
All right.
And mathematically, when the supply of anything becomes infinite, its baseline market value approaches zero.
So if infinite synthetic reality is worthless, that leaves a massive void. I mean, the only thing an algorithm fundamentally cannot hallucinate is a physical human reputation.
Exactly. Verified human reality becomes the ultimate currency. We will see human trust networks actually replace baseline intelligence as the primary social and economic infrastructure.
Trust networks, how does that work?
Well, look at how financial clearinghouses function today, right? They validate transactions, ensuring the funds actually exist and the parties are solvent before a trade settles.
Okay.
In the future, specialized human trust networks will act as the clearinghouses for reality itself. Cryptography and blockchain might handle the mathematical verification, sure.
Right.
But deeply vetted human networks will carry the liability for verifying the provenance of ideas, the authenticity of identity, and the allocation of capital.
So how does an individual professional actually navigate that transition today? I mean, for you listening right now, if you are sitting at a desk realizing your daily tasks are heavily rooted in stage 3 intelligence.
Which a lot of people's are.
Right. What is the roadmap for pivoting away from the commoditized salt and toward the key?
The strategic pivot relies heavily on a practice known as domain crossing.
Domain crossing.
Yes. When AI can instantly optimize any individual silo of knowledge, the premium value moves to the intersections between highly disparate systems. It's the act of integrating massive, complex domains that are usually treated in total isolation.
We can actually look at the invention of the shipping container to understand how domain crossing works mechanically.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right. Because the person who invented the shipping container didn't invent the cargo ship,
No.
and they didn't invent the freight train. Both of those domains existed, but ships and trains couldn't efficiently talk to each other.
They were totally siloed.
Cargo had to be manually unloaded from a hull, sorted, and reloaded onto rail cars by thousands of longshoremen, which took weeks. The shipping container was just a standardized metal box, but it served as the cross-domain language.
Exactly.
It allowed the ship to hand its cargo directly to the train with near-zero friction, a completely revolutionizing global trade.
And that physical standardization is exactly what cognitive domain crossing looks like today.
Wow.
The future belongs to the leader who can connect a gigawatt-scale renewable energy grid with an algorithmic retail supply chain, or the researcher who can merge predictive behavioral healthcare models with urban infrastructure planning.
Right.
The algorithm can optimize the grid, and it can optimize the supply chain, but it requires a human visionary to realize those two systems should be speaking to each other in the first place.
Because integrating two massive human systems isn't just a math problem.
No, not at all.
It requires navigating regulatory bodies, convincing stubborn stakeholders, and managing massive capital risk. So the goal for a leader is no longer finding the correct technical answer because the machine already has it.
Right.
The goal is formulating the complex inquiry that no one else is brave enough to ask.
Exactly. The abundance of machine intelligence acts as a powerful contrast die for the human experience. By actively stripping away the economic value of rote calculation and standardized synthesis, it highlights the absolute, irreplaceable premium of human friction.
Human friction.
Yes. Purpose, meaning, courage, intuition. These deeply human traits have been scarce for 5,000 years. Artificial intelligence cannot synthesize them.
Wow.
Value in the global economy never truly disappears. It just continuously migrates to the next frontier of scarcity.
Which exposes a massive, beautiful irony, really.
How's-
Well, we have spent 5,000 years marching through economic progress. We moved from valuing physical land to salt, to coal, to oil, to specialized information, and finally to artificial intelligence.
Right.
And yet, when cognitive labor becomes entirely free, the most valuable assets in the year 2125 are going to be deeply ancient.
Oh, I see what you mean.
A resilient physical body, a deeply trusted family or community network, a reputation for absorbing risk, and the simple act of keeping your word.
That's incredibly profound.
We spent centuries building machines to conquer the physical world, only to rediscover that the ultimate scarcity is just being a reliable, authentic human being.
The era of building an entire career purely on providing the correct technical answers is rapidly closing.
Yeah.
The heavy lifting of cognition is being handed to the data centers. The new premium is curating meaning, assuming liability, and building the trust networks that allow society to function when information is infinite.
Absolutely. You don't want to be the modern equivalent of someone hoarding heavy bags of salt, completely ignoring the key hidden inside the box. You have to look at your own career and your own industry with clear eyes.
You really do.
The greatest wealth creators in history, the merchants of the trans-Saharan routes, the early industrialists, the tech founders, they didn't succeed simply because they knew more facts than everyone else.
No, did they?
They succeeded because they recognized where the shoreline of value was migrating long before it became a societal consensus. They built ships in the desert.
Exactly.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, take a hard look at the friction in your own daily life, the things that frustrate you because they cannot be easily automated, the messy human relationships, the physical constraints of reality, the exhausting need to persuade skeptics.
Lean into that friction.
Exactly. What if those are not obstacles blocking your success, but the actual irreplaceable foundation of your future value? Look at the landscape of your own life today. What ship should you be building in the desert, and will you be brave enough to swing the hammer while everyone else tells you the sky is clear?
Bye.